Sophie Cunningham just dropped a nuclear bomb on the WNBA establishment, and the league will never be the same. What happens when a player who's been in those locker rooms for 7 years finally gets a platform to speak the truth? Well, we're about to find out, because Sophie Cunningham's new podcast just exposed everything the league has been trying to hide about their treatment of Caitlin Clark. And trust me, what she revealed is going to make your jaw drop. Before we dive into these explosive revelations, if you're someone who believes in truth over narratives and wants to support players who actually stand up for what's right, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what Sophie just did takes serious courage, and we need more voices like hers in women's basketball. Picture this. Sophie Cunningham, fresh off becoming Caitlin Clark's enforcer and protector on the Indiana Fever, sits down for her very first podcast episode. Within minutes, she's dropping F-bombs and calling out the entire basketball establishment. And when I say calling out, I mean absolutely demolishing anyone who dares to say Caitlin Clark isn't the face of the WNBA. It literally pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league. Who would be? What? Sophie's voice gets heated. You can feel the frustration building. Sabrina? No. And then comes the haymaker. When people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as blank. You're literally dumb as blank. Can we just appreciate the absolute savagery of this moment? Sophie Cunningham, a 7-year WNBA veteran, isn't playing the political game anymore. She's not following the script. She's not protecting feelings or maintaining the status quo. She's calling it exactly like she sees it. And what she sees is a league full of people in denial about who's actually bringing fans to the arena. But here's where it gets even juicier. Sophie doesn't just defend Caitlin's status as the face of the league. She pulls back the curtain on what's really been happening behind closed doors. Remember all those times last year when we watched Caitlin get hip-checked, eye-poked, and body-slammed? Remember when the media kept telling us it was just physical basketball and we were being too sensitive? Well, Sophie just confirmed what we all suspected. It was targeted. It was deliberate. And it was discussed in locker rooms before games. You have seen players in our league try to toughen up Caitlin, Sophie reveals. Even when I wasn't on her team, I know the talks that Phoenix had in the locker room of no, we're going to prove her. We're going to show her what the W really is. Let that sink in for a moment. Sophie Cunningham spent 6 seasons with the Phoenix Mercury. She was in those locker rooms. She heard the conversations. She knows exactly what was being planned. And now she's confirming that teams were specifically game planning not just to defend Caitlin Clark, but to rough her up, to send a message, to put the rookie in her place. Every rookie coming into the league, that's how you're going to treat them, Sophie continues. But there's just more for her. More for her. Those 3 words tell you everything you need to know about the WNBA's treatment of Caitlin Clark. This wasn't normal rookie hazing. This wasn't the typical welcome to the league moment. This was something extra, something personal, something that crossed the line from competitive basketball into targeted harassment. And Sophie's not done exposing the truth. So it's her 2nd year, and now being on her team and seeing it, I'm what are people doing? Actually it's just too much. It's too much. Too much. The woman who's literally a black belt in Taekwondo, who's known as the enforcer, who's not afraid to throw hands to protect her teammates, is saying the treatment of Caitlin Clark is too much. That should tell you everything about how far over the line these players have gone. But here's what makes Sophie Cunningham different from everyone else in Caitlin's career. She doesn't just see it, she does something about it. Remember that Connecticut Sun game on June 17th? The one where J.C. Sheldon poked Caitlin in the eye and Marina Mabrey shoved her to the ground? Sophie saw enough. She'd had enough. And she decided it was time to send a message of her own. Last-second intrusive thought, I was blanket, Sophie recalls about her decision to go after Sheldon. And when she did, it wasn't some catty hair-pulling nonsense. Sophie grabbed her by the neck, calm, cool, and collected. I knew I was if you're going to do something to her, then do it. The fight was so intense that Sheldon actually chipped Sophie's tooth. She didn't mean to do it, but she did chip my tooth. It's a little discolored. We literally cracked teeth in the middle of the game, face to face. And you know what the best part is? After all that, after getting ejected, after literally losing part of a tooth defending her teammate, Sophie gets fined $900 by the league. $900 for standing up for the player who's bringing in millions of viewers. Make it make sense. But the moment that really shows you the impact of Sophie's protection comes from what happened in the locker room after that game. Sophie reveals that Caitlin came up to her and said, "Finally, finally someone else. Finally." That single word from Caitlin Clark tells you everything about what her first year in the league was like. She went an entire season getting abused up and down the court, Kennedy Carter hip-checking her, Angel Reese clotheslining her across the head, Diamond DeShields taking her out like it's a football game. And not one teammate stood up for her. Not one. Until Sophie Cunningham arrived. And suddenly, everything changed. The woman from Missouri who grew up on a farm, who learned to fight at age 6, who kicked extra points for her high school football team, became the bodyguard Caitlin Clark desperately needed. "I got you," Sophie told Caitlin in that locker room. Simple words, but they meant everything. Because for the first time in her WNBA career, Caitlin Clark had someone who would fight for her. Someone who would take the hits, take the fines, take the criticism, all to make sure the face of the league could actually play basketball without getting assaulted every game. And here's where Sophie's podcast becomes truly revolutionary. She's not just exposing what happened, she's changing the narrative in real time. For over a year, ESPN and the mainstream media pushed the story that this was all normal, that Caitlin just needed to toughen up, that the physical play was part of the game, that anyone complaining was just a casual fan who didn't understand real basketball. But now ESPN is slowly backtracking. Suddenly they're admitting that maybe, just maybe, Caitlin has had a target on her back. One ESPN analyst even said, "I think Caitlin's had a little bit of a target on her back probably since she came into the league." A little bit? Sophie Cunningham just told you teams were having full locker room meetings about how to rough up Caitlin Clark, and ESPN wants to call it a little bit of a target? This is exactly why Sophie's podcast is so important. She's forcing the media to confront the truth they've been trying to hide. And let's talk about the numbers for a second, because Sophie brings up a crucial point. Who draws the attendance? Who draws the ratings? Who has the highest selling jersey? When you bring up her name in conversation, people automatically know who you're talking about. They don't need to break out their phone and Google how to spell her name. The facts are undeniable. Caitlin Clark transformed the WNBA from a league that struggled to fill arenas into must-see TV. Games that used to draw 3,000 fans now sell out 20,000-seat arenas. Television ratings have increased by over 400%. Jersey sales are through the roof. Corporate sponsors are throwing money at the league like never before. And Sophie Cunningham is the only player with the guts to say what everyone knows is true. Caitlin Clark is the face of the league, period. End of discussion. Anyone who says otherwise is, in Sophie's words, literally dumb as blank. But Sophie's revelations go beyond just defending Caitlin's status. She's exposing the jealousy and pettiness that's been poisoning the league from the inside. She calls out players who create drama for clicks, who use Caitlin's name for attention while pretending they're above it all. "I just hate when people do stuff to get attention. It's like clickbait," Sophie says. And there's so much clickbait, especially surrounding Caitlin. Just be nice. Why can't people just be nice? It's such a simple question, but it cuts right to the heart of the problem. Why can't people just be nice? Why does acknowledging Caitlin Clark's impact on the league seem to cause physical pain for some players? Why is it so hard to celebrate success instead of trying to tear it down? Sophie has a theory, and she's not afraid to share it. Some players are jealous of the new wave of WNBA talent. They see the attention, the endorsement deals, the sold-out arenas, and instead of thinking rising tide lifts all boats, that they think, why her and not me? This is what we've always wanted as a league, Sophie points out. So, who cares who gets the credit? And if you're smart, you're making money off of them. You are literally making money from the viewership. That's the part that makes the haters look even more foolish. Every player in the WNBA is benefiting from the Caitlin Clark effect. Salaries are going up, charter flights are becoming standard, media coverage has exploded. The next media deal is going to be massive. All because one player brought millions of new fans to the game. But instead of saying thank you, some players want to poke her in the eye. Literally. What's fascinating about Sophie's podcast is how it's already changing the conversation around the league. Her social media following exploded after the Connecticut Sun fight, going from a few 100,000 to over 1 million followers on both TikTok and Instagram almost overnight. She landed endorsement deals with Arby's and Adidas. She's become a household name not because of her scoring average, but because she's the one player willing to protect the league's biggest star. And now, with her platform on the Volume, Colin Cowherd's media network, Sophie has a weekly opportunity to set the record straight. No PR spin, no league-approved talking points, just raw, unfiltered truth about what's really happening in the WNBA. The timing couldn't be better. As the league prepares for expansion with new teams in Detroit, Cleveland, and Philadelphia, having honest voices like Sophie's becomes even more important. The WNBA is at a crossroads. It can continue down the path of petty jealousy and targeted violence against its biggest star, or it can embrace the growth and opportunity that Caitlin Clark represents. Sophie Cunningham has chosen her side. She's Team Caitlin, Team Growth, Team Stop Being Idiots and Appreciate What We Have. And she's not afraid to call out anyone who stands in the way of the league's success. People are gonna love me. People are gonna hate me, Sophie said when asked about potential backlash to her comments. That's with anyone. So that's just what it is. That's the attitude of someone who's not playing politics anymore. Someone who's seen enough, heard enough, and decided that protecting her teammate and telling the truth is more important than being liked by everyone. And here's the thing about Sophie that makes her the perfect defender for Caitlin. She's not some random benchwarmer trying to make a name for herself. She's a 7-year veteran who averaged nearly 8 points a game. She was successful in Phoenix. She had a good career before Caitlin Clark came along. She's not riding coattails. She's standing up for what's right because it's the right thing to do. Plus, let's be honest, having a black belt enforcer on your side who's willing to chip a tooth in your defense, that's the kind of teammate everyone needs. Sophie brings that farm strong mentally, that Missouri toughness, that I'll fight you in the parking lot if necessary energy that's been missing from Caitlin's basketball experience. The impact of Sophie's protection goes beyond just the physical. Knowing someone has your back changes everything about how you approach the game. You play freer, you're not constantly looking over your shoulder. You can focus on basketball instead of self-defense. And that's exactly what Caitlin needs as she continues to revolutionize the game. What Sophie Cunningham has done with her podcast is create a line in the sand moment for the WNBA. Players, media, and fans now have to choose a side. Are you going to continue denying reality and pretending Caitlin Clark isn't the face of the league? Or are you going to acknowledge the obvious and work together to grow the game? Sophie's made her choice clear. She's not just Caitlin's enforcer on the court. She's her defender in the media. She's the truth teller the league desperately needs. And she's just getting started. With her new platform, Sophie can continue to expose the behind-the-scenes realities of the WNBA. She can call out the hypocrisy, challenge the narratives, and make sure that the next time someone tries to cheap shot Caitlin Clark, they know there will be consequences. Not just from the refs, who Sophie rightfully called out for not protecting the star player, but from Sophie herself. The old guard of the WNBA better pay attention. The days of targeting Caitlin Clark without consequences are over. Sophie Cunningham has arrived, and she's not afraid to name names, expose locker room conversations, and call out anyone who stands in the way of the league's growth. And the best part? Sophie's just telling the truth. She's not making anything up. She's not exaggerating. She's simply sharing what she's seen and heard over 7 years in the league. The fact that her truth-telling is causing such waves tells you everything about how much the WNBA establishment has been hiding. Sophie Cunningham might have started as Caitlin Clark's enforcer, but she's become something much more important. She's become the voice of reason in a league that's lost its way. She's the reality check for players living in denial. She's the protector of not just Caitlin Clark, but the future of women's basketball. And if you don't like it, well, in Sophie's words, you're literally dumb as blank. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Sophie Cunningham's bombshell revelations and want to see more content that tells the truth about what's really happening in women's basketball, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because as Sophie's podcast continues, you know there's going to be even more explosive revelations coming. And we'll be here to break them all down for you. Thanks for watching, and remember, in a league full of people afraid to speak the truth, be a Sophie Cunningham.